On this computer, yes. Okay, so let's just review what we were talking about. The difficulty with this maamer, just to point out something important, I think, the difficulty with this maamer, the beginning maamer of the Hemshech Tafresh Ayin Beis, the difficulty is that he starts off with the moshel and not with the nimshal, which then will bring a moshel to explain. The way it's usually done, obviously, is the other way around. Just let me mute some sounds in the background there. Okay, so the way it's usually done is you bring the nimshal and then bring Mesholim to explain the nimshal. However, the Rebbe over here doesn't do it that way. He just goes right into the nimshal. And the nimshal is the koichas hanefesh. The nefesh and the koichas hanefesh. What's the nimshal for? We'll see later on in subsequent maamorim. It starts the next maamer, but subsequent maamorim. The nimshal is the inyan of oiros and kalim. Now, in the inyan of oiros and kalim, there's going to be two inyanim, as we'll see later on. We'll see that the inyan of the inyan of oiros, in the inyan of oiros and kalim, there's actually the inyan of a mamutza. We'll see this, and then we'll see it in this maamer a little bit shortly as well. But there are two inyanim in a mamutza. One inyan in the mamutza is the mamutza between Elokus and the worlds. And the other inyan is the mamutza between Elokus and the Shomas. And the mamutza in both cases is the Torah. The mamutza in both cases is the Torah. But there's a difference we're going to see in the next maamer. There's a difference between the two types of mamutza. But in order to be able to explain all of those differences between the mamutza of Torah and the mamutza of Torah and Brias or Elamas and the mamutza of Torah and Neshomas, so he has to go into all of these pratim, which don't seem to be really leading anywhere, but they will. We'll pick that up in the next maamer. That's somewhat of the difficulty of a hemshech, that he'll lay out certain things that you really don't know where it's going, and then you pick it up later on. In any event, we started explaining that in the koichas hanefesh, there's the nefesh, and then there's the or hanefesh, and then there's the kalim, into which the nefesh into which the nefesh is mislabish. The concept is islapshus. Islapshus, enclosement, I suppose you would say, is a very fundamental concept in Hasidus. And this inyan of Hislapshus, in Hislapshus, there could be two inyonim in Hislapshus. One is where the lavush is malim on the or. In other words, the lavush, the garment, is, so to speak, shoilet on the or. It takes control of the or. And the other possibility is where the lavush does not take control of the or, but the or takes control of the lavush. But whichever way you look at it, there's going to be some kind of interaction between the or and the lavush. Or if you want to put it this way, the or and the kli. The way he's putting it in this maamer is the koichas hanefesh, or the nefesh and the koichas hanefesh. Okay, so that's more or less the point that we reached at now. And why are we explaining this? Because we want to explain the difference between the inyan of keser and the other spheroids. In order to be able to do that, so explain that keser is the inyan of ratzoin, which is a koich makif, and the other koichas are koichas melubashim in a kli. He also explained that the hislapshus of oiros, of koichos in the various kalim, is that there's a particular kli which is the proper kli for that particular koyach of the neshama. Alpha P, that the neshama is mislabish in a number of different avorim, and explained, for example, you have the inyan of mislabshus hakoach hachochma in a person's hand when he's an artist or when he's writing something, etc. You have a certain chochma that's malubish in the koyach of writing in the hand. not in the hand itself, but in the koich of writing in the hand. So you have koichos mislabshim zeh bazeh, and we'll see that later on why that's important in the world of tikkun, because that did not happen in the world of toyu, that there was islapshus koichos zeh bazeh, but only in the world of tikkun. But nevertheless, for the time being, suffice it to say that the koichas are, even though a higher koich is melubash in a lower koich, chochma is melubash in the koich hatziyur, for example, the ability to draw or to write beautifully, or to play music, or to dance, as he explained, or even singing, and various other examples. Nevertheless, the ikar koyach of the moya of seichel is not in the hand, is not in the dancing, is not in the any other aver than the moyach. Why? Because the kli hamoyach is the kli that's matim to that particular koyach of the nefesh. Okay, so that's more or less where we were up to, and we're going to go back a couple of lines. We got a bit further than this, but we'll go back a couple of lines because this really begins the inyan. Aval b'yislapshus hanefesh beguf ha'evarim, when the nefesh is melubash in the various evarim, harehem b'bchinas kli. The evarim are the aspect of kli, v'hakoiches mizgalim bohem, and the koiches are mizgale in the various evarim. Just I wanted to mention to you that I see that my neighbor is running around looking for some way to get his lights on because his electricity apparently went out. It may happen here, so I'm just warning, giving a heads up. If it does, that'll be over for the night, I imagine. But it seems that our area, there's a lot of blackouts. Okay, because of the rain probably. In any event, so HaKoiches Mizgalim Bahem, the Koiches Mizgalim, those particular Evorim, V'al Kein Haim Moishlim V'Sholtim Aleihem Lan Higam. And therefore the Koyach is Moishel and Shoilet, the Or is Shoilet on the Kli. The Or takes charge of the Kli. He's going to explain that the Kli sometimes, or in any event, the Kli is also going to have Ashpor on the Or. We'll see that later. The Or becomes Megusham Lefi Erech HaKli. He'll explain that in a minute. But in the meanwhile, we're explaining that the Or takes charge of the Kli. It's Manhig the Kli. It's an expression that's used in Sefer Yetzirah, that the Koichos are Manhigim es HaNefesh. Koichos HaNefesh are Manhigim es HaEvorim. Okay. In any event, and Moishlim v'Sholtim Aleim Lan Higam to guide them and conduct them and so on and so forth. L'chein shlitum im sholazois, this control of the koichos over the evorim, the koichos ala evorim, enu b'derech hechrich. Some people say echreach. It's not by way of forcing. In other words, the nefesh, the koichos ha-nefesh, don't force their inyan onto the evorim. But they're a klal. That's the way. That's not the way they operate. They operate in a sort of a cooperative manner. That the evorim themselves, so to speak, want the koyach to be melubash in it. In other words, let's say, for example, the legs. The koyach, the evorim, the legs, want the koyach hahiluch to be melubash in them. It's not that they have to be forced into it. That's not the way a rotzen operates. Rotzen operates by way of hechrech. He'll explain it later. But the koiches pnimim do not operate in that way. And that's why they call koiches pnimim. They're melubash in the aver with the willingness and the acceptance of the aver. And the willingness and acceptance of the koich ha-nefesh as well. The koich ha-nefesh wants to have its kli by which it can operate, and the kli by which it operates wants the koich ha-nefesh to be melubash in it, so that it can do its pu'ula. Otherwise, it's, God forbid, lame, shatuk. Yeah, it's lame, or it doesn't have, it can't move, it's paralyzed, and so on. Okay, so. It's not that the koach are machriach. They don't force the aver to operate in a certain way. But they poil in a way, since they mizgale, the aver wants to accept that koach. The Ever wants the gilu of the koyach in the Ever. The limb wants the revelation of the koyach in that limb. And we can understand this by way of the enclosement of the koyachas one in the other. Now we'll see that there's a difference between the islapshus of the koyachas one and the other, and the islapshus of koyachas in the avorim. There's a bit of a difference, but we'll get there shortly. Even though it's islapshus the koyachas zebazek, mo koyachas seichel kishum islapish b'koyach hatnua uman higoy b'melechas atziyur. Like where, for example, when the seichel is melubash in the koyach hatziyur, so that the person can draw beautiful drawings and make beautiful paintings. How does he do that? It's not simply by the umnus hayad. It's not simply because he trained his hand. He has a certain ability to malbish koyach chochma in the koyach of drawing, which is in the hand. It's not that it's forced that way. That the seichel, the koyach of the nefesh, is poil in the koyach hatziyur according to the way the seichel sees that it should be. Okay, he's going to explain this more in detail later on. And now we can understand the difference between koyachas hapnimiyim and koyachas hamakifim, because koyach hamakifim don't operate in that way. The koyachas hamakifim, like koyach haratzoin, operates in a way of hechrech. It forces the issue. It forces the issue to happen like that. Masha'enken koyachas hapnimiyim do it beratzoin and beheskem. Beratzon is the wrong word. They do it beheskem with they agree to be informed by the particular koyach. Again, that the ratzon is poil in all the koyachas and all the evarim, but it's poil not in a way of or pnimi, it's poil in a way of or makif, in other words, in a way of hechrech. It forces the issue. It forces it to be like that. Just let me get the chat up. Oh, crumbs, I'm not sharing my screen. Oh, I'm so sorry about that. My apologies. Okay, anyway, here's where we are right now. We see the green bar. Shoot. That's the chisaron of not having your voices. Okay. Anyway, all right, let's continue. Since Ratzon is a koyach which is nale be'etzem. Nale be'etzem means it's not shaykh to kelim. It's a koyach which is not shaykh to a kli at all. It's not shaykh to a kli in the oifan of or pnimi. Let me not say it's not shaykh to a kli at all. It is shaykh to a kli, but oifan makif. It's not shaykh to be an or pnimi in a kli. In other words, the way it operates is not by, so to speak, convincing the kli to accept the oir. It operates in a way of hechrech. It forces the kli to do what it wants. That's the inner ratzon. And why is that? Because ratzon is a koyach which is not metzumtzam lefi erech the kli. It's not a koyach which is metzumtzam, which is narrowed down and constricted according to the ability of the kli to contain it. So again, with the hisgalus of the ratzon, it forces the hisgalus of the koichos to be mizgale. In other words, the way ratzon operates is not in a way of heskem. Not in a way of we have an agreement and we'll work on this together. The ratzon motivates things to do what it wants simply because of its koyach to force it to do what it wants. Now we'll see this later on in Yonim of Avoda, but suffice it to say for the time being that the ratzon is not melubash in the kli, and therefore there's no two-way street with the oiros and kalim as far as ratzon is concerned. It's a one-way street. It's milamala lamata, and that's all. There's no milamata lamaila. It's milamala lamata. Okay, he's going to explain. In other words, it's forced. It's not cooperative, exactly. And similarly, with the Evarim who obey the Ratzain, who shemizbatlim memela lifnei haratzon, the mizbatel from the Ratzain. They don't grow from the Ratzain. They're not mu'arim under the Ratzain. They're not illuminated by the Ratzain. They're not motivated by the Ratzain. They're forced by the Ratzain. In other words, they mizbatel. It's I suppose you would say it's communism versus capitalism. The way Ratzon operates is milamala lamata. It forces the kli to do, you do what I want or else, kind of thing. And therefore the koichas, the environment is battling to the Ratzon. But that's not so with the koichas pnimim, as he's going to explain. Aval the koichas pnimim ain't okay. The koichas pnimim is not like that. Ki mashe poyalim liyos hakoyach hataktoin gefi chiyuv koyach ha'elyon. That the koyach hatachtoin operates according to the seichel of the koyach ha'elyon. In other words, it's a cooperative thing, but the koyach hatachtoin, the lower koyach, takes its guidance from the higher koyach. In other words, let's say koyach hatziur takes its guidance from koyach hachochma. That's the way it works. Shezeu b'derech pnimi al dei slapshus v'his galus. And that's the Indian of a koyach pnimi. It comes about by way of his slapshus, that the higher koyach is melubash in the lower Indian, or the koyach hanefesh melubash in the aver, and that his slapshus means that the koyach has to be somewhat metzumtzam, as we'll see. But it nevertheless operates in a way of his galus, not in a way of hechreach, in a way of illuminating rather than a way of forcing. Okay. Let's continue. Very important concept in Tanya, which I think is very, according to this, is very much misunderstood, because the way the moach shalit al alev, people think automatically the way moach shalit al alev is that the moach forces the alev to obey. No, it doesn't work like that, as he's going to explain. It's not in a way of being forced. You do what I tell you. It causes a chalishus in the natural bent of the heart is to get excited, to become overwrought about one particular thing or another, whether be it anger, be it happiness, be it whatever. The lave is a as it's explained, the lave is the inyan of chamimus. It's the fire of the body, so to speak. That's where the fire of the body comes from, so to speak. Right? That's what heats the body up. Mashaika and the moach is cool and collected, and it's like the inyan of mayim as opposed to eish. He'll speak about this shortly. So the way it works, the way the moach and the lave work together, is not that the moach puts out the fire of the heart. No, the moach says, listen, if you want to bring your inyonim out, the poil, this is the way you have to do it. It's a cooperative thing, with the moach leading the way. Now, it can happen that the lave can lead the moach, but then a person is not a melech, moach lave kaved, or keres. The order should be moach lave kaved, moach the brain over the heart, over the stomach. That's the way it should be. But if the person is not, if it's the lave comes first, then it's a lemech or whatever. The lave and then the moach and then the keres. Lemech, as you know, Lemech was the one who went hunting and killed his grandson. Whatever. Okay, so the inyan of the moach and the lave is that the moach causes a chalishus in the teva of the lave, and the chalishus is not a negative thing. Adarabba, it's a very positive thing, because the heart tends to run away with its enthusiasm for a particular inyan, whether it's with anger, whether it's happiness, whether it's sadness, whatever it may happen to be, and the moyach explains to it how it should really operate in somewhat of a lower tone. The reason for this is the heart receives chayus from the moyach, and therefore automatically the moyach is sholet on the heart. It's an automatic, it's a natural thing. It's a natural thing for the heart to listen to the opinion of the moyach, so to speak, and to follow it. Because the leiv is a kli for the moyach, therefore the moyach is sholet al leiv in a way of or pnimi, not in a way of or makif, not in a way of echrech, but in a way of or pnimi. Okay, in a way of his galus, his lapshus and his galus, as we explained before. And so too the way the koyachos work on all the other evorim. So too the nefesh elokis nefesh bahamas. Nefesh elokis is melubash in the nefesh bahamas. When we're born with the nefesh bahamas, and the nefesh elokis is behelem. But as we grow older, we come to the age of bar mitzvah, so the nefesh elokis starts to wake up, and then it starts to hopefully take charge of the nefesh bahamas. Shanefesh elokis moish v'sholet al nefesh bahamas. The nefesh elokis should be sholet on nefesh bahamas. It should rule over the nefesh bahamas, but not in a way of hechrech, not in a way of forcing. It doesn't come away in a way of, it doesn't rule over the heart in a way of forcing it. It affects it, it works on it. It's toil on the heart in a way of tikkun, rectifying the wildness of the heart, and a way of zichuch, refining a person's midos. That's the way it's supposed to work. The nefesh elokis is supposed to refine the nefesh bahamis and to mesaken the nefesh bahamis if it needs a tikkun. Most of our nefesh bahamis is due unless they were already a nefesh elokis. But so tikkun and zichuch. Sha nefesh bahamis yaskim al inyone ha nefesh elokis. The nefesh bahamis hopefully is maskim, it agrees to, and it's willing to and happy to accept the directives of the nefesh elokis, because that way it reaches its full expression, its full ability to do what it needs to do. It just needs the right guidance from the nefesh elokis. To the extent that the nefesh bahamis also wants elokus. Kiras elokim li toiv. There's a pasuk in Tilim. Kiras elokim, closest to the Eibishter, li toiv is good even for the nefesh bahamis. Okay, and the reason for all of this is because the evorim are proper kelim for the tzuras hanefesh, for the nefesh to be misgale in those particular kelim, as we've explained. Alkain, therefore, hakoiches misgalim poilim bahem, the koiches are revealed within them and have their effect on the evorim. Now we come to a new Indian. This is actually a new aspect of what he's been talking about. According to the chomer of the evorim, so too is going to be his galas hakoiches. In other words, let's say you have a very fine wine, right? But you drink that fine wine out of a dirty cup. Right, so that fine wine in a dirty cup is not going to taste like the fine wine that it really is. It's going to taste icky, right? It's not going to taste good. Why? Because the cup is dirty. So the same thing with the koiches of the nefesh. The more adin, the more refined the aver, the more able it is to receive the etzem or of that particular koyach. The etzem or of the nefesh. The more grob the aver is, the more grob that particular limb is, the less likely it is to receive the refined aspects of the koyach. Let's give another example. Someone who, for example, let's say is a weightlifter. To use a simple example, someone who's a weightlifter, it's unlikely, although it's not impossible, but it's unlikely that someone who's developed all of his muscles and so on and so forth is going to have the ability to do refined work, let's say very refined painting or very refined calligraphy and things like that. His muscles are too pumped up for very refined kind of work. Same idea. Yes, that's exactly right. He's got us from Pnimi, his Lavshus Makif, as opposed to Makif. Yeah, no, not Makif is not cooperative. Makif forces the issue. Makif forces, or Pnimi doesn't force. Yeah, okay. As we find with the Chomer HaMoichin, who is Galus or HaSeichel. The more refined the Moichin is, the more the Koach HaSeichel can be Mizgale in the Moich. She'im Mezak HaMoich Yovesh V'cham B'yoyser, that if the mixture of the Moich is hot and dry, too hot and dry now, don't take this too literally, but these are just like classifications, classical classifications of things you find in the Rambam as well, Shemona Prokim and various other places. That this is the way they thought about things. There's hot and cold, and wet and dry, moist and dry. So if you have the right mixture of hot and cold and moist and dry, and so on, if you have the right mixture, then the aver is operating at its optimal level. If you have the wrong mixture, in other words, it's too hot or it's too dry or it's too cold or it's too wet or whatever it is, then it doesn't operate optimally, as we'll see. Yeah, the seichel that's melubash is not going to be so good. And if it is the mixture is cold and moist, but it's also not good. That leads to sluggishness. Karbalach is sluggish. On the other hand, the inyan of kar is that the person is not like, he's not misragish. He doesn't get emotionally involved. Kar is kar, right? And the lach, sluggish. Okay. So we don't need to go into this because we don't generally think in these terms today so much. So let's just continue. Mezeg and mamutza, but the in-between mezeg, in other words, the mixture, the proper mixture when it's properly balanced, bein karbalach v'cham v'yavesh, lefi oifen tova mezeg b'moech hagashmi, as is good for the physical brain, kach yeh hashros or haseichel mezeg tov. So the more balanced these various elements are in the brain, the better the brain will operate. The seichel will operate in the brain. Whether we're talking about in depth or in breadth of haskola, of intellectual activity, or haskola dakus v'tzachus, ukahay gavna, haskola dakois v'tzachos. I'm sorry. Or whether the haskola is in a very refined and very how do you say, delicate, very delicate and refined concepts, etc. Right? It's going to be depth, it's going to be breadth or refinement, and so on. So it depends on the how the brain works. Similarly with the way the eye operates. Similarly with the way the black and the white work in the eye, in other words, the pupils of the eye and the surrounding area. So will be the ability to see clearly or not so clearly, etc. As is known, the concept of good eyesight and bad eyesight. Here, in this case here, tov ayin v'ra ayin means eyesight. It doesn't mean how one looks at something. Mezigas chomer ha'ayin, in the way the chemical balance is mixed in the eye, in the physical eye, ayin agashmi. Imhu b'riboy damim, If it's lots of blood, or b'miyut damim, or very little blood. In other words, the guy's eyes are bloodshot all the time, or they're not bloodshot. Can he see properly and can't see properly, and so on. The Gemara maamer, and all of these inyonim are found in various forim that deal with optics the way they were understood by the Chachomim, and a lot of it is taken from Greek and Roman science and so on and so forth. Afalpi that it's paskan dazoi, and we can still understand it in that way, but I don't think there's a hechach to understand it that way. You don't have to understand it that way. You can understand it using other categories today, even though it's been ruled that way in the Rambam, but that's a whole nother discussion. According to the mixture of dam, the solids in the blood, and the liquids in the blood, in the various limbs, inyan Adam. This is the inyan of Adam, which is Aleph Dam. Adam is Aleph and Dam. In other words, the Dam is an extremely important part of who we are, and the mixture of things in the blood has a very decisive influence over the person. For example, a person with the wrong mezig, with the wrong mixture, could very easily become depressed. If he has too much, if there's too much afar and mayim, kar and lach and kar and yavesh, and becomes depressed and so on. Anyway, whatever these categories are, if you often kazeh who mezigas kochas aruchniim, so find the kochas aruchniim. Now it's an interesting question, and I don't know what the answer to this is. Can this be changed? L'chayra, yes, you can change the mezig, the natural mixture of your kochas. Person perhaps has a natural natia towards, let's say, being an exuberant person and an upbeat person, or a natural tendency towards being a downbeat person, and someone who gets easily depressed or whatever it is, or balkas or balsimcha and so on and so forth. Natural, and l'chayra, you can control that. Even if it's the mezeg of the kli of the guf itself, l'chayra, that can also be controlled by diet and maybe by exercise, by other things. It's an interesting discussion on its own, but let's not go there right now. Let's continue. Someone who is an angry person by nature, or or he's a quiet and pleasant person, betivoy, naturally. It depends on how his blood is mixed with water and the water and the blood mixture. So again, whether this is something that can be changed or not, we'll leave for another discussion. Even if a person has a lot of blood, maybe the meziga, the mixture, will be a good one, like it says about the Oid HaMelech. He was ruddy, reddish, a reddish complexion, with beautiful eyes, or as the Meforshim say, he was pleasing to look at. V'tov ro'eh. And even though the koiches and the evorim are not be'erech one to the other, they're not in the same park, they're not in the same ballpark. It's completely, say, two different inyonim. There's the koiches hanefesh, and then there's the evorim. One is a davar gashmi, one's a davar ruchni. Shakoiches ruchniim hema, ve'evorim gashmiim. One's spiritual, one's physical. Since one is melubash in the other, the nefesh is melubash in the aver, the physical aver. And according to the mixture of the kalim, according to the way the kalim are, so too is going to be the inyan of the koiches. In other words, how the koiches mizgale in that particular aver depends on the mezek, on that particular composition of that aver. In other words, the way the aver is naturally megusham or less megusham, the way the limb is naturally more refined or less refined, it's going to have an effect and on the or ruchni of the nefesh, as we'll see. Because that's what makes them able to accept and receive the koyach hanefesh. In other words, they're properly matched one to the other. For example, here's the ayin klila or hariyah. The brightness of the eye makes it the proper kli for the light of sight. But the ear is not a kli for the light of sight. Just like the eye is not a kli for the inyan of shmiya, of hearing. Anything which is polished shines, makabel or. Anything that shines, makabel or. Therefore, the eye, we see the eye is the shiniest object in a person's, maybe a person's teeth also, if he brushes his teeth regularly, but the eye is the brightest thing in the body. As we know, Chazal explained that it's not only that the light comes into the eye, it's not only that the light receives the eye, but it's not only that the eye receives light, but the eye also gives out light. It's not only that the ear receives hearing, it receives noise, sound from outside, but also there's an oir that goes out of the ears. And one of the proofs of that is if you close your ears, you can hear. So as it says the Arizal, you can hear the pushing of the air to get out of the ear, right? The pushing of the air in the ear to get out of the ear. That's what it comes from, according to that Arizal. In any event, so too the chomer of the moyach, the way the brain is chemically arranged. The lachluch is the moisture in the brain. Dakus sheboy it's more of a refined aver than most. Yeshbo is a dugma miteva or a seichel, and therefore it has somewhat of a likeness because it's more refined. It has somewhat more of a likeness. The cells of the brain have somewhat more of a kesher, a connection to the possibility of thinking. You can't think with your finger because the chomer, the actual physical quality of the finger doesn't have that ability. It doesn't have the proper cells. It doesn't have the right maziga, as he called it, the right mixture. Okay. Nails. You're talking about nails being, but they're not as bright as the eye, and they do reflect a little bit, but not that much. Choira. You know, you hear a person's eyes are flashing when he gets angry or when he's happy. When a person's very happy, their eyes flash. What does it mean the eyes flash? They flash. There's like light that coming out of the eyes, so to speak. You know, there's an expression in Yiddish, gemacht mir lichtige Augen. He lit up my eyes. It's meant literally. It's by Abdullah, yeah. We reflect off the nails, yeah, because the nails used to be much more refined and malutash than they are now. They would actually reflect light in a much because the goof at the time of by Adam Arishon was transparent, or at least it was translucent, let light through. In any event, okay. Let's continue. This is the Kitzer Yaskel Avayer. He began to explain a hefresh ben a kesel shire spheres, the difference between kesa and the other spheres. Vivar moshel benefesh. He explains the moshel in the nefesh. Shekol koiches bereishim koiches seichel. All the koiches in the nefesh, and particularly the koiches seichel, and the first and foremost the koiches seichel and koiches pnimim, are koiches that work within the kli. They don't force the kli; they work within and they work with the kli. And therefore each koyach is malubash in the proper kli that is allotted for it. That's the proper kli to receive it. And he mentioned briefly the concept that the koich is also melubash one in the yard. The koich seichel can be melubash in the koich hayad, not in the yard, but in the koich hayad. In other words, seichel can be melubash, for example, in the ability to draw and the ability to paint, or ability to make music and so on. And that's why the Evarim make they make the koichos more material. Why? Because the koichos melubash in the aver has an effect on the koich, just like the koich illuminates that particular limb. So too that limb has an effect on the it dumbs it down, so to speak, or it makes it more physicalized. The koyach of the nefesh. In other words, the way the koyach nefesh operates in the brain is not the way the koyach nefesh operates in the nefesh. It's much that it goes through a tzimtzum. And the opposite is also true. Shahem betelim ela koyches, that the aver is bottled to the koyches, and particularly bottled to the rotzam. But we didn't explain. Here he's talking about the koyches pnimim. The koiches lead them. The various powers of the soul are closed within the various limbs in the appropriate limb, but in a way of revelation rather than a way of forcing. Not be'echrech, it's be'izgalus. Be'izgalus ha'koiches ukfi mizigas ha'evarim, and the revelation of the koyach is according to the mixture of the evarim. Okay, a question: should we continue with Perek Gimel, or should we stop here? What does everyone want to do? It's the end of Perek Beis. Continue next week with Perek Gimel. Anybody? Anyone here still? Yeah, we have to reconcile that, but that's not the ikar that he's going to be talking about. There is a certain reconciliation, but ideally all of them operate together. It's just that koach haratzon operates in such a way that generally it forces the issue, but it doesn't have to force it in a way that's contrary to the natural inclination of that particular koach of the nefesh. It can be in a cooperative way as well, but we will see. We'll see how it's explained as we get further into the maamer. So, should we continue or should we stop here? Yes, Megala, the nature of the kli. That's correct, and the kli is Megala, the koyach of the nefesh. That is correct. All right, since we're not getting much of a response here, I think we'll just stop here for today. Instead of stopping in the middle of an inyan. So we'll stop here for today, and unless there's questions, we should leave it at that.